Hi, welcome to Scrapbook Pal here on YouTube. I'm Kara, and today we're celebrating a bug birthday. We are using Lawn Fawn's new large Slimline dies with sliders, and I'm just going to use the largest rectangle and one of the sliders, and here's how I have that cut out. But certainly you can position it in many ways to do whatever you're looking for it to do on your card. My card base is an 8.5 by 3.5, and we're using a bug deal and the coordinating dies. So I'm working on that front panel, and with the life-changing blender brushes, I'm using some Distress Oxide in broken china and spreading that around the center, and then with cracked pistachio and Lucky Clover, I want to make the outside edges look kind of like a leafy canopy of for trees. So it's gonna be the bugs are in the trees, and there'll be branches and such. So my blending is not smooth. I kind of have it more like you would camouflage, so it's blotchy with the dark and light green. And I wanted a blue green so that I can show the bugs in more of a yellow green. So here I'm just using a stamp of the leaves, one on each side of the block, and putting it in the cracked pistachio and just stamping the leaves all around the outside. And I'll do the same with the Lucky Clover. Just want to kind of give the idea that there's leaves back there, but I don't want them to look too prominent. Just deciding where they all are going to look the best, kind of balance things out. And then when putting this Lucky Clover in, that's when they really kind of show up. So I like the combination of both of those together. And then I continued on just putting in more leaves. And now I'm going to put on the sentiment, and I'm using that same Lucky Clover Distress Oxide ink and just deciding where that's going to go. And the one thing I would caution anyone about, which happened to me when I was first making this card, was to do this panel first and let it dry while you're working on your other pieces, because that Oxide ink needs to dry or it can smear pretty easily. So now while that's drying, we're putting together the little elements that'll be on the card. And so I'm using Lawn Fawn's Jet Black ink, and I have them all set up in the MISTI. And this again is a bug deal from Lawn Fawn, and I'm just stamping them out and I'm going to color those in. Now I will put in more leaves and a few other elements, but this is pretty much what I did with them. First I have the little branches, and I'm using E20s for this. So E21, and now shading with an E23 and blending that in back with the E21. And then I decided I could go a little darker, and so I have the E25 and want to get in those shadows. So now I'm just putting in lines to kind of give the effect of the bark. So even going darker with an E47 with some of those lines, it gives it some texture. And then onto the leaves, and I want to have these leaves kind of a blue-green as well. So I'm using the G00, G02, and finding those shadow areas, and then I'll darken that up with the G05, and that's about as dark as I go. And this is a bright green now, so I think that the lighter ones are a little on the blue-green side or minty green, and then that by the time you get to that 05, it's more like a grass green or a Kelly green. But blending that in, and the 00 to the 02 is kind of a leap for me, so I am doing the tip-to-tip method to blend that. And now to get that blue-green back in, that's a BG72, and that kind of makes it more blue-green. So just trying to get these leaves to kind of match up with the background there. All right, now I'm using those BG70s. I'm going to use them as though they were grays because the BG70s are kind of a gray blue-green, but just wanted something a little brighter than actual gray. So just finishing up, giving him a little bit more depth on the bottom and lighter on the top. And now onto this grasshopper, and he's a YG01, and then a 23 and a 25. And this is one of the main reasons I wanted the leaves to be the blue-gray or blue-green, because I wanted this the grasshopper to really show up. He's a little guy, and so are the other bugs that are going to have some green in them, so I wanted them to really look different. So keeping them on the yellow-green side with the leaves on the blue-green side. Now here's my fly and my ladybug, and I'm using those blue-greens again as my gray. So I don't know, I'm not a big bug fan in real life, so I thought a blue-green gray was a little more charming than a black fly for me. So I think that's probably why I went with the blue greens, and also I just think it blends nice with the card. All right, so again, there is a leap with that BG70 to the 72, and so I did some tip to tip with them. And now I'm going to use the YR00 and 14 to put in some accents. So in the party hats and the cupcake base. And then we're moving on to the butterfly. Now you can see I already colored his body and the inchworm's body the same as the grasshopper, but I'm using the RV20s for the pinks in this one. So I had an RV21, a 25, and a 29. Now there is a 23, which I think I should have used because I was doing some tip-to-tip between the 21 and the 25, but it worked out all right. The tip-to-tip technique with Copics is a really valuable method for blending because some of those colors, and if you don't have all the colors, it helps to bridge the gap. And so what I like to do is have the darker one in my non-dominant hand, and which is my left hand, and then the lighter marker in my dominant hand, my right hand, and touch the tip of the light marker onto the dark marker, and then use that light marker to blend onto my paper. So it just picks up a little of the darker color, and then as I blend it away, more and more of the lighter color comes out. So now we're just onto our cupcake, and again we're staying with a few different color groups so that I don't have too much going on this card. There's a lot of little bugs, and so I want to keep those colors pretty consistent. And so that's why we're just sticking with, you can see I already did the ladybug as well because there wasn't much to show on that, but that ladybug was also done with those RV20s. The wings of the fly are a BG000, and I already did the leaf that's on the cupcake. I did it the same way I did the other leaves, and I decided I wanted to brighten up that orange on those hats and the cupcakes, so that's a YR68. I'm going to take all of the coordinating dies for a bug deal stamp set. So these are the lawn cuts that go with them, and I'm just going to cut those out using my Big Shot die cut machine. Here are all the pieces cut out. And I gotta say, I love seeing them all in their little cutouts. So now I'm going to arrange everything on the card. The card is dry and my ink won't smear when I am arranging things. So I want the two branches on either side of the sliders, because the grasshopper is going to jump from one branch to the other. And so I'm just arranging that how I think it should look and gluing that down with the Lawn Fawn glue tube. And get those, I want to make sure that the branch is off the side a little bit so that I can clip it. So it looks like it's coming from the trees as one of the branches. And then put some leaves on those branches. And this will just set the stage for all our little bugs and their party. So just gluing down those leaves, and I'm still going to decide what I want to do with them, and decided I didn't need a leaf there, kind of balancing things out. And now I'm going to put the cupcake on top of the branch because the grasshopper is going to be hopping up to nibble on that. And then this little inchworm over there, he was nibbling on the leaf. And oh, these guys, they all need their little party hats because it's a birthday. So just a little dot of glue on each one of those and give them a hat. Now this stamp set comes with the ladybug with or without a hat, so she already had her hat on and she was ready. But the rest of them are donning their hats, and then they'll be ready to join the party too. So next I'm going to clip off the excess branches, and so they're flush with the card. And so it's time to arrange everything and glue them down. So deciding where that cupcake should sit, and I think it's going to sit right at the end so that that grasshopper really has to leap for his cupcake. And we'll put that little pill bug up there, and the caterpillar or inchworm. Our ladybug will sit on a leaf, and the butterfly and fly will be flying in the air. And then there is a speech bubble that comes with the set as well. So we'll have the little fly saying something to just kind of add to the fun. And it gives me a little bit something on that corner too of my card, kind of balances things out. So I'm going to use that Distress Oxide in Lucky Clover, and I'm going to stamp the word yay on there. So now it's time to put things together, and I ink blended the card base so that it matches with the rest of the front panel. And now I want to use some craft foam to raise it up a bit. It's a large area, so I didn't want to use foam tape. So this is an easy way to do it instead. And I'm just making a mark of where I need to cut things out for the slider. And then I'm going to cut a bit wide around that area just so that I have enough room, enough space for something to slide around in the back. And I'll adjust that as we go as well. So I can use the scrappy tape, and this is a 1/4 inch, and it works great with craft foam. So I'm just putting it all around. And like I said, this is just a more economical way, I think, than using a lot of foam tape, is to put some scrappy tape on the front and back of the foam. And you can see here it can kind of curve around how you want it to as well. So I put that scrappy tape on both sides, and now I'm going to take the release paper off of the one side that I want on the front panel. So just get that off and set that down. And now I can determine if my track is going to be wide enough and how it looks through the slider, if you can see any, and then I can just trim off some of that foam if I see any. So here's how the grasshopper is going to sit, and I'm using a thicker foam, and this is foam tape, and you can see it's thicker, and that'll raise up my grasshopper a little bit because I'm going to put just a small sliver, big enough to keep him in the track, but small enough that you don't see it. So just a small rectangle of the foam tape on the back of him. And I just wanted to see from the front to the back where I would place that, kind of trim it down a little bit, and then I'm going to flip over my front panel with the grasshopper on there again and adhere that to him so that I know I have him positioned right where I would want him. There we go. And he slides up and down, just making sure. So now I need something to keep him in that track. And so I'm just going to ink blend a little area so that if you see it in the back of the grasshopper, that it won't really show up a lot. And then I'm going to cut out that speech bubble again, and I'm going to cut it 3 times, 1 in the blue, 2 in just white, and glue those 3 together to make them thick. Now, this is a slider, so you could use a dime or a penny as this back part, but because that grasshopper is small, I didn't want a coin to show it all, and so that's why I'm using just a little circle or whatever you have. This was part of the dies, and so I'm using it. And I need to see that it's going to slide easily in the track, so I'm going to trim the track a little bit to widen it up. And I'm also going to clip the sides of that speech bubble so that it thins down. And this way it's more of a rectangle too, so it's just going to slide one way in the track and not kind of if it was square or circle, it could spin, and I really want it just to go one way. So now I can take that release paper off of my grasshopper, put that speech bubble in the back, and with the grasshopper in the front, adhere them together. And there it is. He's moving freely with that speech bubble behind him to keep him safe in that track. He's not going to come out at all. I can take the release paper off and put the whole thing on the card base. So just making sure that I've got that position right before I put it down, because scrappy tape is not going to let me bring it back up and play around with it. So I've got it where I want, and here's our grasshopper hopping up to get his little cupcake for his birthday. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video today and that it might encourage you to make a slider card and a Slimline card. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye!